H2O Tours and Travel brings to you the Holy Land Tour. Experience the Bible atmosphere following the steps of Jesus and Paul and the places where they walked, with a Bible scholar tour guide to point out the most beautiful and important sites, and see the Bible coming to life right in front of your eyes.
Nahum, or as we know it in English as Capernaum, is situated on the northeast side of the Sea of Galilee and was one of the largest fishing villages during the time of Jesus' life. It was originally settled around 150 BC by the Hasmoneans and was destroyed in the late 8th century AD by an earthquake. This was also the town where Peter and Jesus lived during the time of Jesus' ministries. Capernaum is a place of reflection, a place of understanding, and a place where you can truly see how the roots of your faith are so deep, yet so accessible. The Sea of Galilee, which is actually a freshwater lake, is known by a variety of names in the Bible. It is the largest lake in Israel and one of the largest in the region, bordered on the east by the Golan Heights, on the north by the Jordan River, on the west by the Galilee Hills, and on the south by the Jordan Valley. Being one of the largest lakes in the area, it was surrounded by fishing communities. And fishing was the main industry of the area. So we can understand why Jesus came here to find fishers of men. When you sail on this east side of the Galilee, you will see the same storm as described in Mark. The story comes to life before your very eyes, and you can imagine the boat carrying Jesus and his disciples sailing along the same type of storm that you are witnessing. In 1996, the Israel Antiquities Authority found a fishing boat dating back to the time of Jesus. It was found intact in the water, which itself is a miracle, since wood typically disintegrates very quickly in fresh water. Today, you can see that same boat that sailed on the lake during Jesus' life. And that maybe, just maybe, is the same boat that we read about in Mark. So today, when you visit Genosar and you see the bay, imagine yourself standing there among thousands of followers and hearing Jesus preach the word from that small boat. Tabka, which is in Aramaic the name of the place. It's also called in Hebrew Ein Sheva, or Seven Springs. It is a fertile plateau that was uninhabited during the time of Jesus. This is why Jesus chose it as the site of the miracle of the fish and loaves. Today, when you go to Tabka, you will see a mosaic representing this miracle of loaves and fish. You will visit an ancient Byzantine church that commemorates the event, and you will see the green grass around you, and you will be as one of the 5,000. You can close your eyes and sit on the green grass, facing the lake, and imagine that you are being fed by Jesus, and that you are witnessing his miracle. Mount Tabor is the highest part of the Lower Galilee, on the north side of Jezreel Valley. It rises 1,500 feet, and because it stands by itself, surrounded by valleys, it is very noticeable. It is featured prominently in many events throughout history. When you visit Mount Tabor, you can see how steep and isolated, how it is a high mountain. When you reach the top, you can see for miles and miles the entire Jezreel Valley, the town of Nazareth, Armageddon, Mount Hermon, and the Sea of Galilee. Yardenit, the place of baptism. If we look today at the place of Jesus' baptism, called Yardenit, we see it is situated right at the southern tip of the Sea of Galilee, at the place where the Jordan River flows out of the Galilee on its way to the Dead Sea. It makes a lot of sense that Jesus, when he was coming down from Galilee, would stop in this place to be baptized by John. The topography of the land dictates that the main road that Jesus took to get to Jerusalem, the Via Rex, or the Road of the Kings, went through the Jordan Valley, and the site of Yardenit lies right off this road. Today, when you go to Yardenit, you will put on a white baptismal gown and slowly descend the steps into the water. The same water that baptized Jesus, you will be baptized. You will feel your sins being washed away. You will feel clean as it is commanded in both Old and New Testament. You can feel the same feeling as our biblical ancestors and the same feeling as John and Jesus. We will experience the significant feeling of being a pilgrim to the house of the Lord during the time of the Second Temple period. In the time of Jesus, we will talk about what I consider to be one of the most beautiful places in the land of Israel. We will focus on two major places in the old city of Jerusalem. The main gates to the temple, today known as the Ophel or Southern Excavation, and the Herodian Street, which ends at the western entrance to the temple. Today, you can visit the Herodian Street at the City of David National Park. And what's amazing about this, that this is the only street in Jerusalem that had not been used for 2,000 years and stayed intact, because it was buried under the debris from the temple. So the people who walked on this street before us were from the Second Temple period, from the time of Jesus. The Mount of Olives is located in the east side of Jerusalem, overlooking the city. The view from the mountain was the first view of the city that every pilgrim coming from the east would have seen. Along the side of the mountain, we find sites that mark events from the last days of Jesus. One of them is Dominus Flevit, the place where Jesus wept for the fate of Jerusalem in Luke 19, verse 31. The church that stands on the site today is shaped like a tear, in reference to Jesus weeping. Another site, and probably one of the most amazing places in all of Jerusalem, is the Garden of Gethsemane. This is the same garden where Jesus prayed his last prayers. And the most amazing thing about it is that when you visit today, some of the olive trees you see are 2,000 years old, meaning that they are probably the same olive trees that were there when Jesus was there. These trees witnessed that fateful day and heard that prayer of Jesus. The burial place of Jesus Christ, the garden tomb. Today, when you visit the garden tomb, you will see that it is built out of a hill with a small garden next to it. The hill looks like a human skull, and in Aramaic, the name of the place where Jesus was crucified is Golgotha, meaning skull. The site itself was only discovered in the 19th century. Up until then, Jesus' place of burial was believed to be the Holy Sepulchre, within the walls of the old city. And it is still considered to be the site of the burial by the Catholic and the Orthodox churches. But when you stand in the garden tomb today, you can see that it looks like the place described in John 19. There is a garden next to the hill, and you can imagine Nicodemus and Joseph going up the hill, taking Jesus down from the cross and placing him in the cave right underneath. You see a tomb from the Second Temple period that looks exactly as it is described in the good book. More importantly, we see that this site is well outside the walls of the old city. In Jewish tradition, a person cannot be buried anywhere within inhabited city. And the garden tomb is located in a place that did not sit within the city limits of Jerusalem during the time of Jesus. So based on all of this, we can say that this is most likely the site of the burial of Jesus Christ. The garden tomb is one of the most powerful and profound places in the entire world. It is a place where you can reflect on what happened on that most important day, the day that Jesus was taken down from the cross. You will be able to see the heel yourself, to see the skull shape with your own eyes, to walk around the same garden as described in the Bible, and imagine Jesus being covered with linen and spices. You will go back in time and witness this moment. The city of Caesarea, or in Hebrew, Caesarea, was named after the great Roman patron of King Herod, Augustus Caesar. Herod built the city in the 1st century BC. He decided to build an immense city in honor of Augustus. It was a magnificent Roman city with the largest port in the entire Middle East. The city was so important and so vast that it was known as the second capital of Judea after Jerusalem. Today, when you are in Caesarea, you can visit the house of Pontius Pilate. You can visit the Hippodrome and the theater and imagine the wealth of the city, the chariot races, the gladiator fights, the first Christian fighting against wild animals. And you can imagine yourself being at the house of Cornelius, listening to the words of Peter and witnessing the historical baptism of Cornelius and acceptance of the Lord by the first Gentiles. Only in Israel where the Bible comes to life.
The Holy Land Tour. Join us.